There's supposed to be a planet hiding in the darkness beyond the known solar system, a world larger than Earth, moving on a vast 3,600-year orbit. According to the story, it once sent visitors to our planet, reshaped human history, and may eventually return with enough gravitational force to trigger global destruction. Its name is Nibiru. And the most disturbing part of the claim is that the ancient Mesopotamians supposedly knew about it thousands of years before modern astronomy. But when the oldest texts are examined closely, something unexpected happens. Nibiru does appear. The name is real, yet the planet described on the internet is almost impossible to find. Because the most important clue was never a drawing of a mysterious world. It was the meaning of the word itself. The modern version of Nibiru is remarkably specific. It is usually described as a massive planet traveling around the sun on an extreme elliptical orbit. Every few thousand years, it supposedly returns to the inner solar system. Some versions connect it with global floods, earthquakes, pole shifts, lost civilizations, or the arrival of extraterrestrial beings known as the Anunnaki. The number repeated most often is 3,600 years. Photographs of red objects near the sun circulate online. Unusual clouds become evidence. Earthquakes become warnings. Almost any astronomical discovery beyond Neptune is presented as confirmation that Nibiru has finally been detected. But none of those details comes from a single ancient account. There is no surviving Mesopotamian tablet that describes a giant inhabited planet approaching Earth every 3,600 years. The modern story was assembled much later from several separate ingredients: an authentic ancient name, Babylonian mythology, disputed translations, speculative astronomy, and 20th century ancient alien literature. For Babylonian scholars, the sky was a system of meaning. The movements of the sun, moon, planets, and stars were carefully observed and recorded. Their positions could be connected with seasons, royal power, agriculture, war, disease, and the perceived intentions of the gods. A planet could therefore have several identities at once. It was a visible light in the sky. It was associated with a deity. It could serve as an omen. And depending on its position or behavior, it could receive a particular name or title. This matters because modern readers often approach ancient astronomical language as though every word must refer to one permanent physical object. But Babylonian celestial terminology did not always work that way. The name Nibiru appears in a religious and astronomical world centered on Marduk, the patron god of Babylon. In the creation epic Enuma Elish, Marduk defeats the forces of chaos, establishes the structure of the cosmos, assigns celestial stations, and rises to supreme authority. The poem is not a modern astronomy textbook hidden inside a myth. It is also theology and political ideology. Cosmic order mirrors the rise of Marduk and the city of Babylon. So when Nibiru appears in that system, the question is not merely, which planet is it? The deeper question is, what function is it performing? Nibiru is commonly written more precisely as Neberu or Nebiru. It is an Akkadian word connected with crossing. In ordinary contexts, related forms can refer to a crossing place, a ford, a ferry, or the act of passing from one side to another. The ORACC Akkadian lexical databases record meanings including crossing, crossing point, and ferry. That does not automatically tell us what every astronomical use means. A word can change meaning according to context. Station can describe a railway platform, a military post, or a position in space. In the same way, an astronomical Nibiru could carry the underlying idea of crossing without referring to an ordinary river crossing. In some cuneiform material, Nibiru is associated with Marduk's star and with Jupiter. ORACC catalogs preserve examples where the name is identified with Jupiter, while other scholarly discussions suggest that the term may have been applied according to an object's celestial position, or its relationship to a significant crossing in the sky. This uncertainty is important. It means scholars can debate the precise astronomical identity of Nibiru in particular passages. But that debate is very different from claiming that Babylonian astronomers described an invisible, inhabited planet on a 3,600-year orbit. The ancient evidence points toward a visible celestial sign, designation, position, or function connected with Marduk and cosmic order. not a secret world waiting beyond Pluto. If Nibiru were simply the ancient proper name of one unknown planet, we would expect the references to behave consistently. Instead, the term moves. It can appear in association with Marduk. In certain astronomical records, it is connected with Jupiter. Some scholarly interpretations treat it as an object or marker related to a celestial crossing, possibly the region of an equinox. A study published in the Cuneiform Digital Library Bulletin argued that the surviving evidence supports using Nibiru for a visible astronomical object marking an equinox. That is a scholarly proposal rather than a final universally accepted solution, but it reveals the central problem. Nibiru may describe what an object is doing or where it appears, not what permanent planet it is. Imagine a title such as "The One at the Crossing." That title could belong to Jupiter under one set of conditions and to a different celestial marker under another interpretation. The identity matters, but the role matters more. This also explains why ancient passages can appear frustratingly ambiguous to modern readers. We want a catalog. The text gives us a cosmic office. We ask for a planet. The text answers with a position, a title, or a symbol of authority. And centuries later, that ambiguity created the perfect empty space for a completely new planet to enter. The decisive transformation occurred in the 20th century. In 1976, writer Zecharia Sitchin published The 12th Planet. He argued that ancient Mesopotamian texts preserved the history of extraterrestrial visitors called the Anunnaki, who came from a planet named Nibiru. In Sitchin's reconstruction, Nibiru traveled on an enormous orbit lasting approximately 3,600 Earth years. Its inhabitants had visited Earth in the distant past and influenced the development of humanity. Sitchin did not present this merely as a new myth inspired by Mesopotamia. He presented it as a recovered history, hidden inside ancient texts. That distinction gave the story its power. Readers were not being asked to imagine a fictional planet. They were being told that museums already possessed the evidence, and that conventional scholars had failed to recognize what the tablets really said. Sitchin's own official material continues to describe Nibiru as a planet with a vast 3,600-year orbit. The published description of the 12th planet likewise identifies it as the home of the Anunnaki and claims that they reached Earth at recurring intervals. But the chain connecting this scenario to ancient evidence contains several leaps. The texts do mention divine groups called the Anunnaki. They do mention Marduk. They do use the name Nibiru. What they do not provide is Sitchin's complete system, an extraterrestrial civilization living on a rogue planet that returns near Earth every 3,600 years. The individual pieces are ancient. The machine assembled from them is modern. Once Nibiru had become a physical planet, the story could evolve again. The ancient astronaut narrative gradually merged with disaster prophecy. Nibiru was no longer only the home of visitors from humanity's forgotten past. It became a future threat. Predicted arrival dates changed. When one date passed without an event, another appeared. The story attached itself to fears surrounding the year 2012 and the supposed end of the Maya calendar cycle. NASA and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory repeatedly stated that no credible telescopic or gravitational evidence supported the existence of a large planet approaching Earth. A massive nearby object could not remain hidden from professional observatories, amateur astronomers, and the measurable motions of other bodies in the solar system. Yet failed predictions did not destroy the legend. They made it adaptable. If the planet was not visible, governments were hiding it. If the predicted date failed, the calendar had been miscalculated. If an image was disproved, a new image appeared. Nibiru became difficult to falsify because every absence of evidence could be reinterpreted as evidence of concealment. The mystery was no longer held together by a tablet. It was held together by distrust. There is one fact that keeps the Nibiru story alive. The solar system may still contain undiscovered worlds. Astronomers have found thousands of objects beyond Neptune, and some researchers have proposed the existence of a distant Planet 9 based on unusual orbital patterns among objects in the outer solar system. But Planet 9 is not Nibiru. It has not been directly observed, and its existence remains debated. In the current hypothesis, it would be a distant planet orbiting far beyond Neptune over thousands of years, not a hidden world periodically rushing through the inner solar system or threatening Earth. NASA explicitly distinguishes the theoretical Planet 9 from collision stories. Even if such a planet exists, it would remain extremely distant and would not produce Nibiru-style days of darkness or planetary catastrophe. Unknown planets are scientifically possible. A specific claim still requires specific evidence. This is the point where the Nibiru legend often reverses the burden of proof. The vastness of space is treated as confirmation. Because we have not discovered everything, this particular planet might exist exactly as described. But an unknown object somewhere in the outer solar system is not evidence for an inhabited doomsday planet from a modern interpretation of Babylonian mythology. Possibility is not identity, and a gap in knowledge is not an ancient map. Now return to the clue at the beginning. The meaning of Nibiru, crossing. That single idea may explain not only the ancient term, but also the shape of the modern myth. For Babylonian scholars, Nibiru could be connected with a crossing point, celestial position, or object fulfilling a particular role in the ordered sky. In the modern story, that abstract crossing became literal. A title associated with crossing became a planet that crosses the solar system. A celestial function became an orbit. A symbol of Marduk's authority became a hidden world. And an ambiguity in ancient language became evidence that information had been suppressed. This does not require a deliberate fraud hidden inside one mistranslated sentence. Myths rarely grow so neatly. Instead, the transformation happened through accumulation. A genuine word was removed from its linguistic setting. Separate gods, astronomical observations, and creation stories were assembled into one technological narrative. Later audiences added catastrophe, conspiracy, and new arrival dates. The result feels ancient because nearly every component carries an ancient label. But the relationships between those components are modern. Nibiru did not survive unchanged for thousands of years. It was reconstructed. That may be why Nibiru remains so compelling. It joins two opposite fears. The first is that ancient people knew something we have forgotten. The second is that modern authorities know something they refuse to tell us. Between those fears stands a dark planet that is always approaching but never arrives. The real history of Nibiru does not prove that the ancient Mesopotamians possessed secret knowledge of a wandering world. But neither does it make their view of the sky primitive or meaningless. Their achievement was different. They watched the heavens across generations. They organized celestial movements into systems of time, religion, kingship, and order. They gave the sky roles, names, and relationships that made sense inside their world. The mistake begins when we force those names to answer questions they were never designed to answer. Perhaps an unknown planet still waits in the outer darkness. Astronomy has not mapped every object surrounding the sun, but if such a planet is discovered, it will be found through observation, prediction, and repeated measurement, not because an ancient word was pulled out of its context. For thousands of years, Nibiru has been described as a crossing. The strangest part is not that a planet may cross our path, it is that one ancient word crossed into our world and became a planet along the way.